Do you find yourself repeating the same habits despite knowing that they are not good for you? In fact, they are holding you back. Or perhaps you're looking for strategies, tips and tricks to understand how can you really break the bad habits to inculcate the good habits. Well, bad habits is a topic that quite a few grapple with. And the good news is that is exactly what we are going to unfold in today's episode at the Unfoldlearning Podcast, where we explore aspects to break the convention, to break the stereotypes aligned with self-discovery and personal development. So welcome back to the Unfoldlearning Podcast, to this new episode. I'm your host, Kaustav, an engineer who turned into a school teacher, turning into a HR professional, and now pursuing this content journey with you all. So stay tuned and let's jump into the new episode. Part 1, the science behind the bad habits. Let's first understand actually how these habits work. Habits are formed through a loop of 4 key components: the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. Understanding this cycle is crucial as it helps to identify where do we really have to intervene to break a particular bad habit. The cue triggers the brain to initiate a behavior. The craving provides motivation to act. The response is a behavior in itself, and the reward satisfies the craving, reinforcing the loop, which means you would, once you experience the reward for the cue, for the craving, for the response, it kind of reinforces it and brings that loop into play so that you continue doing that particular habit. Part 2, common bad habits and why they really form. Now, before we move ahead, let us first understand what are we really calling as a bad habit. Let's make it simple. Any habit that doesn't contribute to the physical, mental, social, emotional, and spiritual well-being are the bad habits. Let me list out some examples for you. Procrastination, self-doubt, excessive screen time, unhealthy eating habits, skipping workouts, and leading a sedentary lifestyle, poor sleep hygiene, smoking or excessive drinking. Any of these does not contribute to the physical, the mental, the social, the spiritual, the emotional well-being, and hence we will put them under the stack of the bad habits. Take a pause and let me know in the comments if you identify with any of these examples of bad habits. Well, let me tell you, it's not only you. We all have been grappled with these bad habits, so it's okay. And if you really want to change this, break this, the step 1 is to first acknowledge. Let me know in the comment below. And the reason why I say this is because quite often we might feel guilty about engaging in such habits. But the point is not to feel guilty. Instead, we need to focus on them, mitigate, and break them so that we can inculcate those good habits. Part 3, atomic strategies to break the bad habits. When it comes to habits, one of my favorite reads have been The Atomic Habits by James Clear. It has really helped me to incorporate practices in my day-to-day life, and that's what I'd like to summarize and share it with you, not only as a learning from the book, but from a perspective of personal experience in terms of what has really helped and how can we further break it down to experience the magic of the atomic habits. There are 4 laws of behavioral change, and we will unfold them one at a time. And as we go through each of these behavioral changes or the laws, I would want you to make connection to the 4 key components of the habit formation loop, right? So the first law is make it invisible, which is to counter the cue. Let's face it, our environment shapes our actions more than we think. The first step of breaking a bad habit is to make it invisible. If you want to spend less time scrolling, clear your home screen from the applications that are there that ensures you spend a lot of time, or use an app blocker. The less you see the cue, the weaker it becomes, and it's not about the willpower, but it's about setting up your space for success. Now let's move into the second law, which is make it unattractive. Now this hits the craving component of the habit formation loop. The next step is to make it unattractive. Imagine seeing a bag of chips, not as a treat, but as a roadblock to your fitness journey. Reframing your mindset is powerful. Start seeing those aspects which kind of craves you in the light of a deterrent, in the light of a roadblock, in the light of something that is instead going to harm you. For example, if you're trying to avoid eating junk, then the reframing that will be required is that it is not really about what you eat, but honoring your commitment to yourself to be more fit. Now let's move to the third law, which is make it difficult. Now this hits the response. Let's admit, convenience keeps a bad habit alive. So let's make it really difficult to engage with them. Let's actually take the convenience out of the window. If you want to stop impulsive spending, leave your credit cards at home. As simple as that. When something's out of your reach, your mind is forced to pause and reconsider. Remember, it's not about perfection. It's about creating tiny barriers that will slow down your automative responses. That's what will help you to mitigate the response component from the loop of the bad habit formation or any habit formation. Make it unsatisfying. Reward. This is where we target the reward component. The last step is to make it unsatisfying. Share your goals with a friend, family, peer, mentor, partner. When someone else is invested in your progress, it adds a layer of accountability, and that's what is really, really important. What it does is it helps us from slipping away and being on the bandwagon. It's not just about the failure, it's about creating a network of support that celebrates your growth. Because at some point in time, we all need to realize that alone, we really cannot achieve much. And hence, we need that ecosystem of support. So, the 4 laws, if we summarize, make it invisible, make it unattractive, make it difficult, and make it unsatisfying. Yeah, these are the atomic strategies to break a particular bad habit. Part 4, building a new habit. Did you know that it takes on an average 66 days to form a new habit? This means you need to be patient and consistent. Your brain's reward system plays a massive role here. Breaking a bad habit is half the battle won. But what about building the good ones? This is where James Clear's Atomic Habits truly shines. It's not about massive leaps, but small, consistent actions that lead to big transformations. Clear calls that there is this 1% rule of improving just one bit every single day, each day. Over time, these small gains compound into a remarkable results and shifting your own identity and life in many ways. So let's actually unfold what are these steps to build those new habits. Number 1, let's start small. Very much the idea of starting small might sound very cliche, right? But it's actually very important and crucial. The new habits should take less than 2 minutes to complete. Why? Because simplicity wins. That's the rule. Whatever new habit that you're trying to form, that you would want to incorporate, when you start small and make sure that you are able to complete it very quickly. It is not about reading 50 pages of a book in one sitting, but it is about actually opening a book and reading just that one page. Start small. You don't have to become a marathon runner on day 1. You just have to step out and get out there. That's your day 1. That's your small step ahead. And the trick here is to make that habit so easy that you really cannot say no to it. Now let's move into the second one, which is called as the habit stacking. Habit stacking is one of the most powerful strategies from the Atomic Habits. It is about anchoring a new habit to an existing one. Now it's very interesting, right? So for example, and this is something that I kind of used, I really wanted to get into the habit of journaling. Now, the first step was to make it easy. And that part was just ensure that I'm sitting down with a pen, paper, whatever, and just writing that first line or 3 lines or 5 lines. But what really kind of helped for it to be amplified was to stack with another habit. And the other habit was, every time I wake up in the morning, I will not use any digital devices or anything that will put me out there or anything related to social media. Instead, I will do journaling. So what happened was, once I woke up, brushed my teeth, I freshened up, had my coffee, immediately I was into my journaling. That kind of stacked to the habit of avoiding my devices, right? That's what is called as the habit stacking. For many, if you would be thinking about having meditation as a habit, then the first cup of coffee that you have every morning, which is already out there, you just have to stack it. You just have to supplement the new habit to the older one or the one that is already existing. The third, design your environment for success. We often underestimate the power of our environment or what we are surrounded with. It's the silent driver of habits, both good and bad. Want to drink more water? Keep a water bottle within the arm's reach. Want to eat healthier? Place a bowl of fruits on the table instead of hiding them in the fridge. There is a clear emphasis that designing your surroundings for your success makes good habits last and last longer. It's not about the willpower, and I'm repeating this again and again. A lot of times, we kind of stereotype forming good habits or breaking bad habits with the idea of willpower. But it's actually not about willpower if you come to think of it, if you really unfold the nuances. It's about setting up the environment that nudges you to make the right choice. The last one, track your progress. Have you ever tried using a habit tracker? Well, it might sound simple or might be really weird, but it's really a game changer. For us as humans and for our brains, it's extremely important to make things tangible. And it goes back to the idea of how habit forms, right? You have a cue, you have a craving, you have a response, and you have a reward. The reward is essentially the tracking mechanism because it supplements to the dopamine. It supplements to the feeling that you get to reinforce the loop. Similarly, it's important that after every habit that we have been able to accomplish, which we wanted to incorporate in our day-to-day lives, you need to tell yourself, or at least have a mechanism that will tell yourself that you are making a progress. It's as simple as that. It could be a pen and paper. It could be digital. You can create sheets, templates, and whatever. You can have applications, whatever works for you. But remember, make sure it's also an habit. So keep it simple so that you can continue with it. Remember, what gets measured gets done. So let's actually summarize. How do we really build the good habits? Number one, start small. Choose a habit that takes less than 2 minutes to complete. Example, read 1 page of a book, write 1 line or 5 lines for my journal, walk for 5 minutes, etc. Number 2, use habit stacking. Pair a new habit with an existing one. After I brush my teeth, I've actually sit down and write a gratitude journal or meditate, etc. Whatever you would want to do. Number 3, design your environment. Adjust your surroundings that will nudge for you to actually go for the good habits that you would want to incorporate. Example, keep a water bottle in your arm's reach. Track your progress. The last one, use a habit tracker to mark off your daily wins. Remember, keep it simple. It can be done on a pen and paper. You don't have to overcomplicate it. But make sure you start small, you stack your habits, you design your environment, and you track it. Remember, building new habits is not about perfection. It's about the progress. It's the small steps repeated again and again, consistently to create that lasting change and make it intuitive so that it is automative part of our system. So pick one of these steps today and start your journey to become a better version for yourself and people around. That is it in today's episode. Thank you so much for being there at the Unfoldlearning Podcast and experiencing the learnings with the idea of breaking the bad habits and creating the new ones. Well, let me tell you that change is hard, but it's not impossible. Start small, be consistent, and be at it. And hey, remember, be kind to yourself. There will be days where you will realize that you have fallen off the bandwagon, and it's completely okay. You always will have a chance, have a time, have a space to get back onto that bandwagon. And in this process, do not put yourself down. Do not overcomplicate things. Keep it simple. Keep it easy. Because remember, you can and you will. That's my time. This is your host, Costa, from the Unfoldlearning Podcast. Remember to subscribe the channel, hit the bell icon. It is extremely encouraging. And I will see you next week with a new video. Thank you for being there.